It may have been a while since she's been involved in a major front-burner storyline, but Esther Valentine on The Young and the Restless remains a core character and has been for over 3 decades. Kate Linder was hired for one episode in April of 1982 that developed into a recurring role until 1985 when she was placed on contract with the soap. These days, Esther pops up occasionally, so you never know when you might see her. Esther was made and loyal friend to Catherine Chancellor for nearly 20 years, even though she wasn't always particularly good at her job. She did leave her employ in 1989 to go work for Nina Webster and care for her son, Philip. He even tried to help Esther find love, but all she ended up with was a one-night stand with a guy nicknamed Tiny. Esther was a better friend than a maid to Catherine. Erin Montgomery /JPaStudios.com. When Esther tried to get her job back with Catherine, she found she'd been replaced by a couple named Robert and Shirley, but it turned out they were in cahoots with Marge, who was a dead ringer for Kay, and were after the Chancellor fortune. Thankfully, Catherine's son, Brock, returned to town and uncovered the scheme, rescuing the kidnapped Kay and Esther. Esther discovered she was pregnant, and when she gave birth to a baby girl, she named her Kate after her dear friend. Unfortunately, things took a turn when Esther met a con man named Norman Peterson. It started innocently, with her posing as the lady of the house to impress him, and Catherine and hubby Rex acting as servants. But when Rex caught Norman breaking into the safe, he was shot and killed, leaving Kate devastated and Esther racked with guilt. Hi, Mom. Sean Smith /JPaStudios.com. Years later, Esther was stunned to learn that fashionista Chloe Mitchell was actually her daughter, Kate. But the young woman was bitter at having been shipped off to boarding school for her entire life, and it took some time before they buried the hatchet. Thankfully they reconciled before the birth of Chloe's daughter, Delia, so Esther could be the doting grandmother. Esther was devastated when Catherine passed away, and was also a little upset that instead of inheriting the mansion, she was left a generous salary as long as she continued to care for the estate. Then, her granddaughter, Delia, was tragically killed in a hit-and-run. Eventually, Esther moved out of the Chancellor estate and took a job working at Crimson Lights. She was also surprised when Chloe returned to Genoa City after giving birth to another daughter, this one named Bella. Eventually, Esther returned to the mansion, working for Jill. She was stunned when Chloe skipped town on her and Kevin's wedding day after it was revealed she was responsible for Adam's death. It broke Esther's heart to let her granddaughter go with Kevin, but it was even worse when she was told that Chloe was dead. Esther was crushed when Chloe's wedding turned into a funeral. Howard Wise /JPaStudios.com. Esther was absolutely floored to discover that Chloe was really alive and had been living in hiding with Kevin and Bella, but promised to keep her daughter's secret and even offered to return to Portland with her so she could help her care for Bella. So naturally, Esther was delighted when Chloe came home and was able to get her life in Genoa City back. When Kevin and Chloe welcomed another child, Esther was thrilled to spoil Miles Rotten, although it still wasn't quite enough for her, and after admitted she missed working at the Chancellor Mansion, Nina Webster suggested she could pop back and periodically for the odd shift if it would make her happy. Esther has been kept very busy with her grandchildren, but she was overjoyed to hear the news that Chance was really alive. Stay tuned to Y&R to see how her story continues. Ad block test, why?